For today's topic, we're going to be talking about before checking out for this year, 2021. And yes, we're coming close to the end of year, so people are thinking about it. What are the elements that we need to set up for success in 2022? Welcome to Meet the Pros. So for our guest speakers today, we've got three experts. We've got Brett Hansen. Welcome to the call, Brett. Nomiki, Georgiadis. Welcome to the call. And Damien, Lacey.
Thank you.
So guys, the topic is really, as we are accelerating towards the end of 2021 and people are starting to, part of them are saying, thank goodness it's over. But as we learned in 2020, that makes no difference. It's just a number. What are the things that people should be doing to set up for success in 2022? I might start with you, Brett.
Yeah, obviously from a financial point of view, the last 2 years have been extremely hard for small businesses. And I think that the major thing is what I always talk to our clients about doing it every year, but now especially is seeing yourself through that chasm of Christmas period, that December, January period that we're all closed or partially closed, some businesses, and looking at, okay, what impact has the last 2 years had and how can we plan to break out of that funk that we've had, and how is that affecting our cash flow? So really planning for that, especially from February onwards. The first 6 months of next year are going to be a real big key.
Yeah, so you've obviously starting to do this for some of your clients right now. Are there any key elements that are standing out as, because I think the biggest one to me is the government's been very generous with our taxes and been paying lots of people lots of money, and there's a very hard finish to that coming up right now. And I think for some people, they looked at the last 2 years going, we did all right. We didn't do too badly in those last 2 years, but I think they forgot that there was a big cash injection thrown in there.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of the main points is actually just sitting down now and saying, where are we at? What impact did that government stimulus have for us? Yes, it's probably helped us through, again, especially now, once we've been in Victoria, once we open back up again, there's going to be there's no more free handouts or whatever. It's really understanding where you're at and where you're going and what help do you possibly still need going forward. And that might now go from government to bank to investment or in those sort of areas.
Yeah, fantastic. So Nomiki, just as you drink from your cup. Yeah, so really you're going to be speaking from a marketing perspective. And what are the distinctions? What are the lessons that you're seeing with clients that they're taken out of this last 2 years? And what would they be doing differently planning for 2020?
Yeah, I think one of the key things was keeping their message relevant throughout the last couple of years during the pandemic. I saw many businesses not keeping it relevant and focused on what would have normally occurred, and they dwindled in comparison to those who were keeping it fresh. So their message, whether it was email outputs, content, whatever it was, but their actual messaging needed to stay relevant with where their clients were at. Some of their clients were actually struggling, obviously. Others were thriving, depending on the business they were in. So as a business owner, you need to be thinking about, what's that messaging? How can I keep it fresh and relevant for 2022 moving forward? Where are my clients at? What's their mindset going to be like? What stage is their business in? Or what stage are they in as a consumer of your goods and services? And how can I meet them there and make that message really bold and stand out so that your business cuts through the clutter and the noise that's really, I think, bubbling over, has been bubbling, and it's probably going to go next year as we open up.
It's an interesting anticipation. I think a lot of people have that this is the calm before the storm, and that everyone's going to open their wallets and throw money at you as they walk out in the street because they've got so much left in the bank account, which is partially true. But I think that you made a good point there. I remember seeing an ad recently where there's these guys on a Zoom call and one of them's talking while he's on mute. And it was perfectly relevant because this guy's talking about some software product and they can't hear him. And then they go, you're on mute. When you said about being fresh, I think there are things happening in the marketplace that we can key into, but that just requires hitting the reset button quite often, doesn't it, with marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what we tend to forget over time with business. You get so busy in your business that you forget to go back and do that refresh and reset and take stock of what needs to be, updated and made more current, and how to do that.
Fantastic. So Damien, the systems guy going on in the marketplace, and what do people need to be doing?
Yeah, I think, so picking up on a couple of points already stated from Nomiki and Brett. Nomiki saying that the way you operate, the way you market, the way you operate, the way you run your business needs to be in sync with the world we live in. I'd definitely agree with that. I'd say putting clients that we've been talking to, working with over the last year or so, some organizations are very much, okay, we're making the tough temporary measures we need to get through. We're going to cut overtime. We're going to delay purchases. We're going to stand down staff. But as soon as things pick up, all that is just going to come straight back on the balance sheet, and your profitability will be exactly where it was. The other category of businesses are going for permanent changes, using the crisis, if you call it, to their advantage and making it the reason to run their business differently. And just this morning, talking to a client, he was explaining to me how it was amazing. This recent construction lockdown, and they're in construction, really forced them to be quite aggressive with the way they were running the business and cutting indirects and directs. And he said it's amazing how efficient and productive they can be with the minimum when they really are forced to make those decisions. So that's an example of a business who's made the permanent changes that'll make them stronger for next year. So I definitely agree with that statement from Nomiki. And then picking up what Brett was saying in terms of getting set up and using the first half of next year. Yeah, that is so true, because this year, right, forget it. It's locked in. The projects you've got, the decisions you've made, it's locked in. However, a lot of business can then just say, I'll think about next year. And what do you know? The first quarter's gone by, and you start to think about running your business in a better way. And then you're looking at the second half of next year. Yeah, let's make the plans to get out of the blocks running from January. But to do that, you need to start thinking about it now.
Yeah, that's a really valid point. You know, and when Brett was talking, he reminded me, one of the biggest lessons that I've seen with most people in business is making sure there's cash reserves in the bank. Because every year we know Christmas is coming, inevitably people run out of cash. And then January, February, the coffers dry up. When the payments were made to all the businesses, they all of a sudden got this lump sum of money and they felt very buoyant, even though they were skeptical and they didn't want to spend it all. So they started saving this cash in the bank, and they said, we've got 50 or 100 grand sitting in the bank and it feels so much better. But don't have to get this lesson, right? Because your business should have a 3-month cash burn buffer in cash, just sitting there doing nothing. And until then, there's never been that sort of,
and that's at any time, let alone going through Christmas, because you can get through Christmas and get to January, and then all of a sudden that 3 months has turned to 1 month left. And it's really, you want, if not 5 months leading into Christmas, so that you can sit comfortably and have a good break, because no one's been doing anything. We all need a really good break over Christmas this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to be saving money because we can't travel anywhere. So just to me now, I've learned, and I've forced everyone into the scenario. I've said, start putting some cash into the rainy day account. And even if it's just a percentage, just so that you build that buffer because one day this is all going to happen. There's no money from government, right? And we're starting to see it. There's an end to this. And touching on what you said, Damien, about people start to realise that there's a lot of fat and happy people in business who have been just cruising through. And when they have to start culling, go, hang on, we've just culled 3 people, but there's no difference in productivity. So what were those 3 people actually doing? And it's a good question, because it's easy to just go back and re-employ those people back in, but you don't need them.
That's right. It really should be a learning experience and allow you to redesign the way you work, so you don't need it ongoing. Yeah.
And look, probably the last thing that sort of resonated with me was this. We are moving into a busy period, and especially Victoria at the moment, coming out of lockdown, everyone's getting ready to open the doors. As soon as that happens, it's don't talk to me until this is finished, which will be Christmas Day. So your planning period is right now, isn't it? You should be thinking.
Now's a great window to start. Working on the topics we're looking to discuss, so that you can hit the ground running, come when you're ready to get started, or you've got a plan in place, even if it's a sketchy one to start with. That's just going to position you far more powerfully than if you didn't put any pre-planning or any pre-consideration into what's happening at the beginning of next year.
Awesome. So I'm going to test you guys. I'm going to ask you, what are your top 3 action tips for people to be implementing right now in preparation for 2022? Who's going to go first?
I'll go. More from my point of view is sitting down now and working out exactly where you're at, and then plan. It's a new budget, and we often budget financial year. Well, it's now calendar year or 18 months is really, where's that going to sit? What are our expenses, especially leave and all that type of stuff? And what help you still may need? Is it that you need to talk to your bank now? Talk to them now for what you may need February, March, April.
Yeah, Yeah, and I'm a big fan of this idea of doing your 12-month budget every 6 months.
Mm,
So calendar year, financial year, calendar year.
rolling budgets. Yep.
Yeah, so you're always 6 months ahead, 6 to 12 months of projection there.
Mhm.
And I think tying cash flow to it as well and making sure you understand what your cash position will be at the end of that time is really key as well.
Definitely. Yeah.
Nomiki, top 3 tips from you.
Yeah, mine would be just do a little bit of a reflection and look at what marketing activities you did do over the last 12 to 18 months that really worked. What rocked your business? Did any of them do that? And just mark them to repeat. And which ones did you put time and energy into that didn't? They're the ones to either change or ditch. And then really look at refreshing that message moving forward. And in order to do that, you really need to start taking note, or have your team start taking note of what those conversations are with your current prospects and clients. What are their, current frustrations? What are their anticipated problems, upcoming in the next 6 to 12 months that you can be helping them with? And that will feed into your marketing message and your strategy.
Yeah. And I think when it comes to marketing message, people get a bit overwhelmed and saying, I don't need to start again. Well, sometimes it's just a reskinning or a repackaging of the same thing, isn't it? It's just the word.
Yeah, that's right. It could be a change of a few words that makes all the difference. But if you found those words from within your clients and prospects, they're magic.
Yeah, fantastic. And for you, Damien, top 3 tips?
Well, what we I've probably got one. Start planning now on how well you're going to use January and February, because I get it right now. Like, it's been a weird year. There's been a whole backlog of work and stuff that we just haven't been able to do. And now it's starting to get released with lockdown and end of year anyway. So I totally get the businesses are just in business as usual, run the operations right now, and it's a go. Plan on how you're going to use January and February strategically now, as in, okay, we need to relook at our marketing for next year. All right, well, let's book in the workshop with Nomiki in January, or you need to look at your operations. How are you going to turn that into action in January? Forget about now. Like, that's done and dusted. Like, we're finding now, it's been good. It's been bad. It's been good. We're finding that our calendar is now from January onwards, which is unusual because this year is full and we're going to have to push people into next year. And I think businesses need to think about that. How am I going to use January and February strategically, not to work it all out, but just to plan it and start aligning time and resources and people so that you are ready to go.
Yeah, and I suppose there's a common thread between everyone's message today, which is we're going through the Christmas period. It's different to probably any other Christmas that we've had before because of the pent-up demand for some people, and really thinking about where am I booking my work for January, February, where's the money going to come from? And if there is no money because it's a downtime, am I using that to either re-systemize my business? And the other key message I got out of this is don't start refilling all of the jobs without evaluating whether they're actually productive or not, because sometimes we're surprised how little we can get away with. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
It's been an interesting conversation, and I suppose timely, because at the end of the year will come and go like a flash, and unless we pause and evaluate. And that was the other common message, is everyone saying take stock of what you've got right now. Don't assume it's okay, just take stock and then make the decisions for January. We're not even at the end. We know we're near the end of the year, really. That's not true. It also comes around in a flash.
Very quickly, yeah.
So, guys, really appreciate your time and your input. So thanks very much for joining us today.